The winter wind howled through the Colorado Rockies as Marcus Reed checked his emergency radio for the 10th time that night. Something had fallen from the sky an hour ago, lighting up the mountain like daylight. As a mountain rescue worker and former combat medic, he knew better than to ignore such events. Base, this is Reed. Still no signs of aircraft debris. Are you sure about those coordinates? He pulled his thick winter coat tighter against the bitter cold. The radio crackled. Negative. Reed. Air traffic shows nothing missing. Maybe a meteor. Marcus frowned at the strange blue glow reflecting off the snow ahead. No meteor he'd ever heard of glowed like that. Following the light, he trudged through knee-deep snow until he reached the edge of a small crater. What he saw made him stop breathing for a moment. Half buried in the snow lay something that definitely wasn't from Earth. The sleek, metallic craft was about the size of a small bus, its surface covered in strange symbols that seemed to shift color in the moonlight. One side was completely torn open, revealing sparking machinery inside. Base, you're not going to believe this, but... He stopped mid-sentence when he heard a weak groan coming from inside the wreck. Years of combat medical training kicked in. Someone was alive in there, and they needed help. Marcus scrambled down into the crater, his boots crunching on strange metallic debris. The groaning got louder as he approached the tear in the hull. He clicked on his flashlight and pointed it inside. The beam revealed a cockpit filled with strange instruments and crystalline displays. But what made him stumble back was the pilot. Slumped over the controls was a being unlike anything he'd ever seen. He somehow knew, was enormous, easily 7 feet tall. Her skin was covered in fine scales that shifted between deep purple and blue, like the northern lights. What looked like armor was fused to parts of her body, now cracked and sparking. The alien warrior turned her head toward him. Her eyes were startlingly human-like, glowing amber in the darkness, filled with pain and fear. Dark liquid, blood, trickled from several wounds. Help! The word came out in perfect English, though her voice had an odd resonating quality. Marcus didn't hesitate. Whatever she was injured and needed medical attention. He could freak out about the whole alien thing later. I'm a medic, he said clearly, moving closer. I'm here to help you. Can you understand me? She nodded weakly, then grimaced in pain. Marcus saw why. A piece of metal had pierced her side, and strange energy crackled around the wound. Base, this is Reed, he said into his radio. I'm going to need to go dark for a while. Don't send anyone else up here. I found a situation that needs delicate handling. Reed, what's going on up there? Trust me on this one. Read out. He turned off the radio. The less people who knew about this right now, the better. The warrior tried to move and let out a pained growl. My ship, defense systems, dangerous. Don't try to talk, Marcus said, pulling medical supplies from his pack. We need to get you stable and out of here before you freeze to death. My cabin's about 2 miles away. She grabbed his arm with surprising strength. Her hand was warm despite the cold, with 4 fingers ending in retracted claws. Why? Help. Marcus met her gaze steadily as he prepared a pressure bandage. Because you're injured, and that's what I do. I help people, even if they're not exactly people as I usually know them. Something like a smile crossed her alien features. Then her eyes rolled back, and she passed out. Marcus looked at the unconscious warrior, then at the wrecked ship, then at the long dark trek back to his cabin. This was going to be a very interesting night. He just hoped he remembered enough of his combat medical training to deal with alien anatomy, and that no one else had seen that blue flash in the sky. The mountain wind howled stronger, beginning to cover the crash site with snow. Marcus had to work fast. One way or another, his life had just become a lot more complicated. Marcus hadn't slept in 36 hours. He sat in his wooden rocking chair, watching the alien warrior who now occupied his bed. Getting her to his cabin had been the hardest thing he'd ever done. Even with her trying to help, Carrying a 7-foot-tall injured alien through deep snow had pushed him to his limits. The warrior stirred, her scaled skin shifting colors like oil on water. The wound in her side was healing surprisingly fast after he'd removed the metal shard and cleaned it. Her armor had somehow merged back into her skin once he'd helped her remove the damaged pieces. Her eyes opened suddenly, glowing amber in the dim light of the cabin. How long? Her voice was stronger now, less pained. About 18 hours, Marcus said, offering her a glass of water. You've been healing pretty fast. Had me worried for a while there. She took the glass carefully with her 4-fingered hand, studying it before drinking. This structure, your home. My cabin, yes. I'm Marcus, by the way. Marcus Reed. Do you have a name I can use? The warrior made a series of musical tones that Marcus knew he could never repeat. She seemed to realize this and said, "In your language, it means Star Hunter." Star Hunter, Marcus repeated. That fits. How's the pain? She moved slightly, testing her injury. Manageable. Your medical skills are impressive. Few would know how to treat someone like me. Combat medic training. You learn to deal with all sorts of injuries. He paused. Though I'll admit, alien anatomy wasn't covered in the course. Star Hunter's face showed what might have been amusement. She looked around the cabin, taking in the medical books on the shelves, the emergency radio equipment, and the snow falling outside the window. You live alone in this isolated place? She asked. Someone needs to help people who get in trouble in these mountains. Marcus stood up, stretching his tired muscles. Are you hungry? I'm not sure what you can eat, but my species can process most carbon-based organic matter. She paused. Though we prefer meat. Marcus heated up some beef stew he had stored. As Star Hunter ate, he noticed she was studying him just as carefully as he had been studying her. Your people, humans, she said between bites. You're not afraid of me. Oh, I'm terrified, Marcus admitted with a small laugh. But you needed help. That comes first. Star Hunter set down her empty bowl. Most species would have left me to die, or tried to capture me for study. She stood up carefully, her full height making the cabin feel suddenly small. My people are warriors. We're feared across many star systems, yet you treated me like I was just another person who needed help. Aren't you? The question seemed to surprise her. She walked to the window, watching the snowfall. My ship's beacon will bring others soon. They'll want to know why I crashed. Marcus joined her at the window. What did cause the crash? I was scanning this sector. Your planet is interesting to us, but something in your mountains affected my ship's systems. She turned to face him. You should know, my people have been watching Earth for some time. I figured we weren't alone out here, Marcus said, though I didn't expect to find out like this. Star Hunter's scales rippled with colors. There's something else you should know. My people, we're all female. We survived through genetic engineering, but our population is declining. We need. She stopped, seeming unsure how to continue. Need what? New genetic material. Your species, humans, are remarkable. Your adaptability, your diversity. She looked at him intensely. That's why we've been studying Earth. But now, after experiencing your kindness firsthand. A sound from outside interrupted her. Star Hunter tensed, moving with surprising speed despite her injury. They're here, she said. My people. What happens next will depend on how they find us. She looked at Marcus. Will you trust me? Marcus thought about everything that had happened in the last 2 days, about all the impossible things he already seen. Yes, he said. I trust you. The sound of something large landing outside made the cabin windows rattle. Whatever happened next, Marcus knew his life would never be the same. 3 more alien warriors stood in Marcus's small cabin, making it feel like a sardine can. Each was similar to Star Hunter in height and build, but their scale colors were different. One deep red, another emerald green, and the third a shimmering silver. Their armor seemed alive, shifting and moving with each breath. "You treated her wounds?" the red-scaled warrior asked, looking down at Marcus. "Yes," Marcus replied, standing his ground despite feeling very small. "She was injured. It's what I do." The warriors looked at each other, then at Star Hunter, who stood protectively near Marcus. She spoke to them in their musical language, gesturing at her healed wound and the medical supplies still scattered around. The silver-scaled warrior picked up one of Marcus's medical books from the table, turning the pages with surprising gentleness. "You study healing. I was a combat medic. Now I help people in these mountains." Marcus watched as the warrior examined his anatomical diagrams with intense interest. "Humans are fascinating," the green-scaled warrior said, moving closer to examine Marcus. "Such fragile bodies, yet you survive in so many environments. Your medical knowledge, it's different from ours, but effective." Star Hunter touched Marcus's shoulder. "Show them your library. Your books about human biology." Marcus led them to his bookshelf, where he kept his collection of medical texts. The warriors gathered around, their earlier suspicion replaced by curiosity. He pulled out a book on human genetics and handed it to the silver warrior. "Your species reproduces naturally," she said, studying the diagrams. "Male and female. So inefficient, yet." She looked up at Star Hunter. "This is why you call us." Star Hunter nodded. "Their genetic diversity is incredible. Natural reproduction creates endless combinations. No two humans are exactly alike." The red warrior turned to Marcus. "You understand what she means. Our species ended natural reproduction centuries ago. We use genetic engineering to create new warriors. But our gene pool grows smaller, weaker." Marcus began to understand. "That's why you've been studying Earth." "Yes," Star Hunter said softly. "But we never expected to find kindness. Most species fear us, run from us, fight us." She looked at Marcus. "You showed another way." The green warrior was examining Marcus's computer now, reading through his medical files. "Their immune systems adapt constantly. Their bodies can heal from injuries that would kill our warriors. And their brains." She turned to the others. "The human brain's plasticity is unlike anything in our database." Marcus watched as the warriors discussed among themselves, their musical language rising and falling like waves. Finally, the red warrior, clearly their leader, turned to him. "Star Hunter believes your species could help save ours," she said, "not through conquest or force, but through cooperation." The word seemed strange to her, as if she rarely used it. "How?" Marcus asked, though he was beginning to guess. Star Hunter stepped forward. "We need to understand how human genetics work, how your bodies adapt and heal." And she hesitated, looking at Marcus with those intense amber eyes. "We need to know if our species could be compatible." The silver warrior touched Marcus's arm, examining his skin with scientific interest. "Their genetic structure is surprisingly similar to our ancestral forms. Before the engineering, it's possible." "Wait," Marcus said, his mind racing. "Are you suggesting what I think you're suggesting?" "A child," Star Hunter said simply. "A combination of our species, using your genetic adaptability and our strength. It's never been attempted, but it could save our people," the red warrior finished. "Give us the diversity we've lost." Marcus sat down heavily in his rocking chair. Outside, snow continued to fall, covering the strange ships that had landed near his cabin. His simple life of mountain rescue seemed very far away now. "This is a lot to take in," he said finally. Star Hunter knelt beside his chair, her scales shimmering with gentle colors. "You gave me a chance when others would have turned away. Will you help us understand how?" Marcus looked at the warriors, at his medical books scattered around them, at Star Hunter's hopeful expression. He thought about impossible things becoming possible. "Where do we start?" he asked. The warrior's scales all shifted to bright, hopeful colors at once. Something big was about to begin. right here in his small mountain cabin. 2 weeks had passed since the other warriors arrived. Marcus's cabin had become an unusual research center, with advanced alien medical equipment sharing space with his old textbooks. Star Hunter spent most of her time with him, asking endless questions about human biology and medicine. "Your blood cells," she said one morning, looking through a microscope that brought from their ship. "They change to fight new diseases. Our warriors are engineered to resist specific threats, but we can't adapt to new ones easily." Marcus watched as she compared samples of their blood on the slide. Her scales had taken on a deep blue color, which he'd learned meant she was deep in thought. "That's why your people are dying out, isn't it?" he asked gently. "You engineered yourselves too perfectly for one environment." Star Hunter nodded. "We became stronger, faster, more deadly. But we lost something important." She looked up at him. "The ability to change." The red-scaled warrior, whose name translated to battle leader, entered the cabin carrying more equipment. "The genetic comparison is complete," she announced. "It's better than we hoped." She activated a holographic display that filled the room with swirling strands of DNA. Marcus watched in amazement as human and warrior genetic codes floated side by side. "Look here," Battle Leader pointed to matching sections. "Our ancestors. They must have visited Earth long ago. There are too many similarities for it to be chance." Star Hunter's scales flickered with excitement. "This means it could work. A child with both our strengths might be possible." Marcus stared at the dancing DNA strands. "But how? Our species are so different now." The silver-scaled warrior, called Mindweaver, stepped forward with a small crystal device. "This is our most advanced genetic engineering tool. We've never used it this way before, but—" She hesitated. "It could combine the best traits of both species. The child would be unique," Battle Leader said. "Strong like us, but adaptable like humans, able to survive in any environment." She looked at Marcus intently. "If you agree." Marcus sat down, feeling the weight of what they were asking. "You want my DNA to create a child." Star Hunter knelt beside him, her scales now a soft purple color he'd never seen before. "Not just any child. A bridge between our peoples. A new beginning." She touched his hand gently. "But it must be your choice." "What would happen to the child?" Marcus asked. "Where would they live? How would they grow up?" "We've discussed this," Battle Leader said. "The child would need both worlds. Time with us to learn our ways, and time on Earth to understand their human heritage." Mindweaver added, "We would establish a permanent base here, disguised from human detection. The child would have both families." Marcus looked at Star Hunter. In the past weeks, he'd seen beyond her warrior exterior to the person inside. He'd watched her gentle handling of his medical equipment, her curiosity about Earth, her concern for her people's future. "And you?" he asked her. "Would you be the mother?" Star Hunter's scales rippled with multiple colors. "Yes," she said softly. "I would be honored, but only if you truly wish it." Marcus stood and walked to the window. Outside, snow was falling again, covering the strange mix of human and alien equipment scattered around his cabin. 2 weeks ago, his biggest worry had been winter rescues. Now he was considering helping create the first human-alien child in history. He turned back to the warriors. "I have conditions," he said firmly. "The child must be free to choose their own path. No forcing them to be a warrior if they don't want to be. And I want to be involved in their life. Really involved, not just a DNA donor." Battle Leader's scales shifted to a respectful gold color. "We agree to your terms." Star Hunter stepped closer to Marcus, hope visible in her alien features. "Then you'll help us." Marcus looked at the holographic DNA strands, still dancing in the air. At the strange family gathering in his small cabin. At Star Hunter's expectant face. "Yes," he said. "Let's change the future." The mountain winds howled outside as Marcus watched Mindweaver explain their genetic engineering process. His cabin's living room had been transformed into a high-tech laboratory, with crystalline machines humming softly in every corner. "Your DNA structure is remarkable," Mindweaver said, pointing to a floating hologram. "See how it repairs itself. Our engineered genes are more stable, but they can't adapt like this." Marcus nodded, trying to understand the complex diagrams. "But how will you make sure the child is healthy? That both sets of genes will work together." Before Mindweaver could answer, a loud alarm sounded from Battle Leader's communication device. Her scales flashed bright red with alarm. "We have a problem," she announced grimly. "Human aircraft are approaching." "Military." Star Hunter moved to Marcus's side. "They must have detected our energy signatures. We weren't careful enough." Marcus rushed to his radio equipment. "I know people in mountain rescue. Maybe I can." A deep rumble shook the cabin. Through the window, they saw 3 sleek black helicopters hovering in the snowy sky, spotlights cutting through the darkness. "This is the United States Air Force," a voice boomed from speakers. "We have detected unauthorized technological signatures in this area. You are ordered to surrender immediately." Battle Leader reached for her weapon, but Marcus stepped forward. "Wait, let me talk to them. I have an idea." He grabbed his rescue worker ID and stepped outside, hands raised. The spotlights immediately focused on him. "This is Marcus Reed, Mountain Rescue Service," he shouted. "I need to speak with Colonel Laura West. Tell her it's about Project Blue Book." There was a long pause. The helicopters continued hovering, their rotors whipping up snow. Finally, a different voice came over the speakers. "Marcus, this is Laura. What the hell is going on up there?" Marcus smiled. His old friend from combat medical training had mentioned working on classified projects. He'd taken a gamble that she might be involved. "Laura, we have a first contact situation," he said clearly. "Peaceful, medical in nature. They need our help, and they're offering to help us in return." The helicopters remained in position, but no orders to fire came. After what seemed like forever, one helicopter landed. Colonel West stepped out, flanked by armed guards. Laura looked at Marcus, then at the alien warriors who had emerged from the cabin. Her eyes widened, but her voice remained steady. "Explain. Quickly." Over the next hour, they showed her everything. The genetic research, the DNA compatibility, the peaceful intentions. Star Hunter demonstrated their medical technology, healing a small cut on Laura's hand in seconds. "So," Laura said finally, "you want to create a child. A bridge between our species, and you're willing to share your medical technology in return." "Yes," Star Hunter answered. "But we ask for privacy, protection. The child should grow up away from too much attention." Laura looked at Marcus. "And you agreed to this?" "I did," he said firmly. "These aren't invaders, Laura. They're doctors, scientists, people looking for help, just like anyone else who gets stranded in these mountains." Laura paced the cabin, thinking. Finally, she reached for her secure phone. "This is Colonel West. Situation classified under Blue Book Protocol 7. The site is under my direct authority now." She turned to the warriors. "I'm risking my career on this, but I've seen too many soldiers die from wounds your technology could heal." Mindweaver stepped forward, offering a small crystal. "This contains basic medical techniques. Consider it a gesture of trust." Laura took the crystal, then looked at Marcus and Star Hunter. "You understand this changes everything. There's no going back." Marcus felt Star Hunter's hand slip into his. Her scales were warm despite the cold air rushing in from the open door. "Sometimes," he said, "change is exactly what we need." Laura nodded. "I'll have the area secured. No one in or out without my clearance." She managed a small smile. "Congratulations, Marcus. You're about to be part of the biggest medical breakthrough in human history." As the helicopters departed, Marcus watched Star Hunter's scales shift to a color he'd never seen before, a soft, glowing pink that seemed to pulse with hope. The next phase of their journey was about to begin. Marcus watched through a glass window as Mindweaver and Star Hunter worked in the new laboratory. 3 months had passed since Colonel West's intervention, and his cabin had been expanded with advanced medical facilities, hidden from the world by advanced alien cloaking technology. The central chamber glowed with soft blue light. Inside, a special chamber held what they had all been working toward: the first viable human alien embryo. "Remarkable," Mindweaver said, her silver scales shimmering with excitement. "The cellular division is perfect. Both genetic patterns are stable." Star Hunter turned to Marcus, her scales glowing that special pink color that now appeared whenever she was happy. "Come see," she called through the intercom. "It's time for today's check." Marcus put on a sterile suit and entered the chamber. The embryo floated in a crystal container filled with a clear liquid, surrounded by gentle pulses of light. Even at this early stage, he could see it was unique. Tiny scales were already forming, but they were soft and flesh-colored like human skin. "The adaptation rate is incredible," Mindweaver said, showing him the readings. "The human genes are helping our genetic material become more flexible, while our engineering is strengthening the human elements." Colonel West entered the observation room, carrying new security reports. Over the past months, she had become not just their protector but a friend. "The perimeter is still secure," she reported, "though we had another curious hiker yesterday. The cloaking field worked perfectly. They walked right past, thinking this was just another mountain slope." Battle Leader, who had been monitoring external sensors, joined them. "More of our people will arrive soon. The High Council is interested in our success." Marcus looked at Star Hunter. "Are they still okay with our conditions? About letting the child choose their own path?" She nodded. "They've seen the wisdom in it. A child with the strength of a warrior and the adaptability of humanity shouldn't be forced into any single role." Mindweaver suddenly called them over, her scales flashing with urgency. "Look at these readings. The hybrid cells are showing abilities we never expected." They gathered around the display. The embryo's cells were demonstrating remarkable properties, healing at incredible speeds, adapting to different environments instantly, showing strength far beyond what they had predicted. "It's not just combining our best traits," Mindweaver explained excitedly. "The combination is creating entirely new possibilities. This child could survive in environments neither of our species could handle." Star Hunter touched the crystal container gently. "A true bridge between worlds," she said softly. "Not just surviving, but thriving anywhere." Marcus felt a surge of pride and wonder. This was more than just an experiment now. It was the beginning of something entirely new. Colonel West whistled softly. "When I was a kid, I dreamed of first contact. Never thought it would happen like this. Not with weapons or war, but with a child." Battle Leader's scales shifted to a thoughtful blue. "Perhaps this is why our ancestors visited Earth so long ago. They saw the potential in humanity, but the time wasn't right." The embryo pulsed with a soft light of its own, as if responding to their voices. The monitors showed strong, steady life signs. "How long until?" Marcus began. 6 more months," Mindweaver answered. "The development is faster than a human pregnancy, slower than our engineered growth cycle. The perfect balance." Star Hunter moved to Marcus's side, taking his hand. Her scales were warm against his skin, a sensation he had grown to love. "Are you still certain about this?" she asked quietly. "Once the child is born, everything changes. For all of us." Marcus looked at the floating embryo, at the amazing mix of alien and human technology around them, at the unlikely family they had created in this hidden mountain laboratory. "I've never been more certain of anything," he said. Above them, the mountain winds howled, hiding their miracle from the world. For now, at least. Soon, very soon, a new chapter in the story of both their species would begin. The mountain air was crisp and clear as dawn broke over the hidden facility. Inside, Marcus paced nervously outside the medical chamber. 6 months had passed since their successful experiment began, and now the moment they had all been waiting for had arrived. Mindweaver's voice came through the intercom. "Marcus, come in. It's time." He entered the chamber, heart pounding. Star Hunter lay on a specialized medical bed, her scales shifting between excited pink and nervous gold. The crystal container that had housed their growing miracle now stood open. Colonel West and Battle Leader watched from the observation window as Mindweaver monitored the complex array of equipment. The room hummed with both human and alien technology working in perfect harmony. "Look," Star Hunter whispered. The child emerged into the world with a soft cry. Marcus felt his breath catch in his throat. She was perfect, about the size of a human baby, with soft, pale scales that shimmered like pearls. Her eyes, when they opened, were a beautiful amber like her mother's, but with round pupils like a human's. "She's breathing perfectly," Mindweaver announced, checking readings. "All systems functioning. The hybrid physiology is stable." Marcus moved closer as Star Hunter held their daughter for the first time. The baby's scales shifted color slightly, matching her mother's happy pink glow. "She can already control her scales," Battle Leader observed, entering the room. "Strong, like a warrior. But look, her skin is soft and flexible like a human's." The baby gripped Marcus's finger when he touched her hand. Her strength was surprising, but carefully controlled, as if she instinctively knew how to be gentle. "What should we name her?" Marcus asked softly. Star Hunter made a gentle musical sound, her people's word for dawn, then smiled. "In your language, Aurora. For the new day she represents." Colonel West stepped into the room, wiping tears from her eyes. "I just got word from command. The president has been briefed. They're shocked, but impressed. Your people's medical technology has already saved dozens of lives in secret trials." Battle Leader nodded. "Our High Council is equally pleased. They've authorized the establishment of a permanent diplomatic mission here on Earth. Hidden for now, but someday." She looked at Aurora. "Someday, when she's ready, she'll help bridge our worlds publicly." Aurora made a small sound, somewhere between a human baby's coo and the musical tones of Star Hunter's language. Her scales rippled with contentment as she looked around at her unusual family. "She'll have quite a life ahead of her," Marcus said, watching as their daughter took in her surroundings with curious eyes. "Both our strengths, both our cultures. And she'll choose her own path," Star Hunter added firmly. "Warrior, diplomat, healer, explorer, or something entirely new. She'll show us possibilities we never imagined." Mindweaver's instruments beeped softly. Her adaptive capabilities are off the charts. She's already adjusting to Earth's atmosphere better than any of us. And look, her cellular structure suggests she could survive in environments that would kill either of our species. Marcus sat on the edge of the bed, putting his arm around Star Hunter as they watched their daughter. Outside, the sun rose fully over the mountains, casting golden light through the hidden facility's windows. "So what happens now?" Colonel West asked. Battle Leader's scales shifted to a determined blue. "Now we build a place for both our peoples to meet, to learn from each other. A future where we grow stronger together." Aurora reached up, touching Marcus's face with one tiny hand while her other held Star Hunter's finger. Her scales glowed with a new color, a perfect blend of human flesh tone and alien iridescence. "Now," Star Hunter said softly, "we show the universe what's possible when we choose to help each other. When we look past our differences to see the best in ourselves." As if understanding, Aurora made another musical sound, her scales shimmering with all the colors of dawn. In a hidden facility in the mountains, washed over by warriors and soldiers who had become family, the future of two species slept peacefully in her parents' arms. The story that began with a crash in the snow had become something much bigger, a new chapter in the history of both humans and warriors, written in the stars and in the heart of a child who belonged to both worlds.